I am Cody Keplinger. I am a New York Times bestselling author for kids and teens. And I have a condition called Leber's congenital amaurosis, which is a really long way of saying that I was born legally blind and can't see like in the dark, and things look blurry to me in most lighting.
Okay, I'm Leslie Taub. I am a dancer. I'm a member of Heidi Latsky Dance Company, and I have been physically, visibly disabled since childhood. I'm obviously an upper limb partial amputee. I have burn scars to 60% of my body's surface area, so I'm unique looking. But I also have a traumatic brain injury, which I acquired in 2008, and I have cognitive impairment related to that.
My name is Dr. Churches. I have cerebral palsy. I am a disabled dancer, and I dance with Giselle, the CEO of Dance Company. My disability affects my speech, my nerves, and my hands.
Hi, my name is Elsa Shunison Henry, and I'm a speculative fiction author and editor, and a disability activist. I was born with congenital rubella syndrome, which is what happens when your mom is exposed to German measles in your, in the womb. So I'm partially deafblind. I wear a hearing aid, and I wear a scleral shell, which is a prosthetic eye lens. And as you can see, I have a cataract, which occludes my sclera.
So I personally prefer to be referred to as a disabled person rather than a person with a disability. There's a lot of really interesting conversation about person-first language versus identity-first language. So person first would be person with disability, identity first would be disabled person. And there are lots of disabled people who prefer to be referred to as people with disabilities, and I respect that. Though personally, I find that slightly problematic because I think it leaves the implication that being disabled is not part of your identity. So often we hear phrases like, their disability didn't hold them back, or despite their disability, and I kind of hate that concept, or the concept of, quote, not being defined by your disability, because while I am defined by many things, my disability is one of them. I would not be the person I am today were I not disabled. Just as I wouldn't be the person I am today were I not from Kentucky, were I not a plus size person. And with all of my identities, I typically prefer identity first because I think it normalizes disability and all the other identities I ascribe to.
Awesome. I agree with Cody. I'm definitely identifying as a disabled woman because I also feel like disability and womanhood tend to get separated. There's a lot of desexualization that happens. There's a lot of defeminization that happens. And I very much identify as a feminine person, and that's a part of who I am. But also, people have told me for my whole life, oh no, you're not disabled. I don't think of you that way. And it's a way of distancing from who I am and how I was born. I'm a disabled person. That's not something that I'm ashamed of. So when I put the phrase person with, or that kind of thing in front of disability, it's a distancing tactic. It's the same thing that happens when people use the horrible term handy-capable.
Oh my god. No, or differently able.
It's a way to distance from disability, and I don't want that because it's an integral part of who I am.
I'm very proud to call myself a disabled femme. I'm proud of my disability identity, and I'm proud of my body. I love my physical difference. I see difference as beauty, and I see difference among people as creating richness and opportunities for dialogue and connection. I think it's also really important for non-disabled folks not to be scared of the word disability. And
Yes.
I think often people see disability as meaning lacking in ability, and really focus on the dis prefix in that way. But I think of it more as similar to words like disrupt or dissident. It's the prefix dis doesn't necessarily mean not able. It means sort of interrupting or questioning concepts of ability and what it means to be able. So I like the word disabled, and I'm really proud of it.
I have mixed feelings about it. I am proud of who I am. I'm proud of being a disabled person, but I see a lot of negativity in the world when you say the word disabled. So for me, I think like everybody else, I just do things differently. For me, yes, I'm disabled physically, but I really don't like the word. I understand what you guys are saying, and I respect it. But for me, disabled is, I guess, a negative for me. But it doesn't mean that I'm not proud of my chair. I love my chair. I love who I am. I love my body. I love being spastic. I love all that. It's just, I guess it's just the word that I don't like.
I think we can probably all agree that outside of disability communities and circles of people with disabilities, political organizations, or just friendships and communities, that disability has been wielded by people outside of those communities as a stigma.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think regardless of whether somebody prefers person with a disability or disabled person, that we're all kind of attempting to counter that stigmatizing concept.
Oh yeah,
It comes from.
There's definitely a fight against negativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, identifying as a disabled person is about reclaiming that word and trying to make it less negative. I think I actually see a lot of parallels between that and the reclaiming of the word queer.
That's actually what I was going to say.
Which I also do.
Yes,
same. I also identify as queer. And I remember when I first identified as queer, my family was like, "Isn't queer a bad word? Isn't that like an insult?" And I was like, it's about reclaiming it. And I love calling myself disabled. I love calling myself queer. And for me, yeah, it's about taking those words and repurposing them so that they can't be used as weapons against me.
That. I like that.
I was raised in a queer community, and so that was the word that was used for people who one, maybe couldn't pick which one of the words we have that exists. And I feel like sometimes that's how it is for.
That's how I use it now. Yeah.
It's like sometimes we don't have a word that we like for our own disability, and it's easier to claim disability.
I think that's accurate. I think another important thing for non-disabled allies or would-be allies to realize is that it's something that very much depends on the individual, and that it's important to follow the lead of the disabled person.
Yes.
And how that person chooses to identify. In some other communities, for example, within the autistic community, there are a number of people who identify as neurodiverse or neuroqueer. My eldest child is autistic and is very strongly neuroqueer identified, and prefers to say that. That's not, they don't see themselves as a disabled person or a person with a disability. They see themselves as autistic and neuroqueer. So, I think within it's sort of like a gender.
I think there's also a choice in context. Like, I use the word disabled person when I am with people who will get that. But when I've been on, when I've had like international or national news interviews, which recently happened, I actually used people with disabilities, not because I wanted to distance myself from the word, but because there's so many people for whom that is the preferred terminology, or there are people who won't relate to it without that distance. And so sometimes I make the choice to use a different language than what I prefer out of sort of not a political choice, but a linguistic choice for my audience.
Right. I think it's also good to acknowledge that like disability as an umbrella term is so broad. You know, it's a giant umbrella. Someone asked me once when I say disabled in general, disability, like what I am considering to fall under that umbrella. And I'm like, well, for me personally, in general, I think of that as physically disabled, physical disabilities, neurodivergence, mental illness, chronic pain, and a few other things.
It's also how you grow up, how you grow up. I was taught that I was normal. I just couldn't do certain things like everybody else. I was different, but in this category, I was still normal. If I'm making sense. So I think depending on how you were brought up, like we said, some parents see it as negative, and also don't want to admit to having a disabled child. I think once you say my child is disabled, it becomes more of a reality.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I had a friend recently who asked me, they suffer from chronic pain and chronic illness, and they asked me if I personally would consider them disabled. And I was like, well, if you were asking me like that, like my personal opinion, yes, that's how I would identify you, but I identify you how you choose to identify. And she was saying that she feels like she can't use the word disabled because she doesn't feel like, she feels like she's appropriating it, like she feels like things aren't bad enough for her. And I was like, well, that's actually like kind of a societal issue that goes hand in hand with the whole, we were talking before we started filming about disabled people are accused of faking disability a lot. And it's because society makes this assumption that when you hear the word disabled, that like things must be to a certain point of view really, really bad for you. And that's one reason I like to reclaim the word disabled, because I think it's good sometimes for people to see, I am a successful author, I get up every day and I do my hair and I do my makeup and I, am a fairly successful person for my age. And I think it's good for people to hear that word used for a 25-year-old woman saying, yes, all these things are true, I'm also disabled and I'm okay with that.
It's interesting. My diagnosis is technically deafblind. I do not look like Helen Keller. So I get this all the time. People are like, you can't be deafblind. You're not completely blind. You're not using tactile sign. What do you mean you're deafblind? I say, no, I'm deafblind. That's my diagnosis. I am legally blind. I cannot see out of one eye, and I am deaf enough that I need two hearing aids to function. That's deafblind. There is no other diagnosis, but to the general populace, that's not deafblind, because clearly I am not helpless.
Yeah, no, I relate to this, because to the general populace, when I say I'm blind, they think I see nothing, I just see blackness. And I have to explain to them that, number one, only 10% of legally blind people literally see nothing.
90% of us can see something.
Yes. And number two, most people who are completely blind wouldn't identify it as seeing blackness. I had a friend once who was completely blind that'd be like, it's not like I see blackness, it's that I see through my eyes the way you see through your elbows. You just don't. It's not that you see blackness, you just don't. And I think people have a hard time grasping that. I also had someone once tell me, wow, you're so brave because you crossed the street. I'm like,
I get that all the time.
I'm like, I live in New York City, how do you think I get places? I think people assume that I have a parent living with me, and
I've had many people before I start talking I've had people come up to me and say, "You're faking it. Get up and walk." And I look at them. I look at them. I look at myself. I'm like, "Wow, really? Okay." And I just keep walking. It's just the ignorance of people that it blows your mind away sometimes.
Yeah, no, it happens all the time. I was
I
saying,
get how many fingers am I holding up?
oh my gosh,
Oh, wow.
all the time. I've been yelled at in the middle of Times Square because I looked at a sign. And I'm like, it's a giant sign, but I was literally cursed at by a strange man in the middle of Times Square.
Yeah, that's usually what I get, like people will say, how many fingers am I holding up? And if my eye tracks over to their fingers, that's when I start getting screamed at. And I'm like,
Yeah, there's just, I think people must go around living their lives just assuming people fake disabilities all the time. And I'm like, what world do you live in? Like,
I mean, it's partially something that's been put together by our society. If you live in the state of New Jersey and you have a disability parking placard, they give you an ID that goes with it. And when I travel on NJ Transit, I use the disability ticket to go to and from. I get carded for my disability 7 times out of 10 when I'm on New Jersey Transit. Oh, you have a disability ticket. Can I see your disability ID? I'm like,
you have a disability ID?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's a thing.
Yeah,
It's pretty
I've
horrifying.
heard of that.
Yep.
Wow.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I'll
That
pull
is,
it out and show it to you after.
oh my god. I get asked all the time for my, so I have a service dog under the table right now so you can't see her, but I get asked all the time for her paperwork. Like, can you prove that she's blind? I'm like, it's actually illegal to ask me for that, just FYI, because there is no set paperwork. I have a little picture with her picture on it that says she's from Fidelco Guide Dog Foundation, and that's all I'm giving you. I do also have a card that has the ADA written on it if you would like to see the law.
I get that all the time, especially in restaurants
Yep.
and buses, city buses. I've gotten drivers ask me, "Well, what does she do?" And I tell them, "I really don't have to tell you what she does."
No.
And then
All they can ask is, does the dog perform tasks that aid you? And if you say yes, that's all they're allowed to ask.
I don't even get that question.
No, I never get it either.
Since I had this lady say, "Well, I have the same dog, so she can't be a service dog."
If everyone
I was
was a
like,
German,
wow.
if every German Shepherd was a service dog, man.
Looks like you had something to say.
I was going to say, I think also Jazzy has a small dog, Bella, right? I had, for a number of years, I had a Chihuahua who was a seizure alert dog for me. As part of my brain injury, I have a seizure disorder, and you know, I had this little black Chihuahua, Foxy, and you know, I carried her most of the time, and she didn't look like people's sort of typical idea of a service dog. Even when she was vested, you know, she was too cute and they wanted to play with her. And there I would come in my heels and my lipstick and my high femme presentation carrying a Chihuahua. And, you know, it was too much for people to take in what her actual job was. And
They don't understand because they're so small, they're so cute. And they don't understand, don't touch her.
Even if it wears a giant sign,
Yeah.
they still have a giant yellow sign, and it doesn't.
I've had people many times, I've told them, "She's working, don't touch," and they still want to touch her. And then I kind of move her away, and they look at me like the bad person.
Well, and also, you've got a dog that's small and on your lap. people touching her is invading your space.
Exactly.
That's not okay.
Exactly.
But it's something that we all have to contend with because our bodies tend to be seen as public property.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was about to say, people
Yes.
feel ownership over disabled bodies.
Yeah.
And so our pets are therefore sort of lumped into this whole,
Yes.
they're not pets, they're working dogs, but the idea is that they're extensions of our public bodies.
That also goes for our wheelchairs because I'm on the train, on the bus, and I'll have people just lean on my chair. And
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I'll be like, hello? And they're like, oh, sorry, but they won't move.
Oh my god.
I'm like, I'm not a pole, I'm not a chair, I'm not a stability stand. I'm a person. My chair's part of me. It's like me going up to able body and just leaning myself.
Yeah,
The most
absolutely.
horrifying moment of my adulthood was when I was standing and waiting across the street in Manhattan, and a woman came over to me and literally held my hand without asking and started to help me cross the street
This
against the
has
light.
happened to me dozens of
Right,
times.
it happens to us all the time, but it was the first time it had happened in the city. And like I physically remember her touching me, I'm like, that's my hand. Why is someone holding my hand? Why are we crossing the street? This isn't the right way for me to be crossing the street. And then I take my hand out of hers and she starts screaming at me in the middle of the sidewalk. I was just trying to help you, as I am very quietly and politely saying, please don't touch me without permission.
No, that happens so often. This idea too, if you refuse help, that you're ungrateful and they're the victim.
I was
Yes.
going out of
Yes.
my way to help you. No, you weren't. You were going out of your way to try and feel better about yourself.
Yes, exactly.
I think an important thing for folks to realize is that we are capable of asking for help. if
Yes.
needed, and that we should always, whether you're talking about somebody with a physical disability or a cognitive, intellectual, learning disability, we should always presume competence first. You know,
Yes.
always assume that we can
And,
figure it out ourselves. And if we ask for help, then
and the sad thing about it is that goes for everybody, even doctors.
oh, especially
Especially doctors.
Yeah, and you would think, okay, it's a doctor, he should know, she should know better, but they really don't. And it's sad, I get sometimes, they start examining me on my chair, and I'm like, wait, I could get up and get on the table, you know. They're like, oh, you sure I can do it right here? I'm like, no, it's more comfortable, just like everybody else.
I think part of the broader disability experience is medicalization, right? Like we're medicalized from, some of us from birth and others of us from the moment that we acquire a disability. And then I also think in terms of just what medical culture is, I think there's a tendency to see people as a collection of conditions.
Yes.
And I guess the other thing I was thinking about as I was listening to the three of you speak, there are so many ways that being a disabled woman or disabled femme is a very specific experience. Women's bodies are seen as public, are seen as public property, are the ways that women are treated not as agents of their own bodies, but you know that the thing of like, hey baby, like cat calls and you know, smile, why don't you, you know, that every woman gets. Then for a disabled woman or a disabled femme, that's compounded by, oh, but you know, let me help you, and if I compliment you, if I, and by I generally mean an able-bodied, you know, generally white guy, like it's usually like some like,
Oh, I get it from women too.
well, and they say, you know, oh, you're so beautiful. Has anybody ever told you that before?
Oh my God, yes!
I get that constantly, or I
Actually, what I get, and
The
I'm sure you
public
get this
body.
too, but I'm sure you get this too, Cody, is the line, do you know how beautiful you are?
Yes.
Oh my
Can
God.
you see, can you see how beautiful you are in the mirror? Do you know? I'm like, Okay, no, we're not even having this conversation.
I also get the oh, you have such pretty eyes. It's like kind of this idea like it's such a shame they don't work right kind of attitude. And I'm like, just I'm fine with how my eyes work, thank you.
It's funny you say that because I get that from my body. And they say, oh, like, but with their sad, disappointed face, your body's so beautiful. And I'm waiting for, okay, but, and I know they're thinking, it's too bad you can't walk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's too bad you can't show off your beautiful curves. Because I feel that's what's coming after the, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.